Day number 18 of the Daily Journal video series. My name is Hervin. Welcome back to the Daily Journal video series where I am documenting lessons here that I learned from running our business, sharing any lessons that I learned from reading books or anything that I find cool. Today it is 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We're wrapping up the day here. It is late and I have a couple of things that I want to share with you here in this video. Let's dive right in. The first one that I want to talk about, it is about the fact, so today we had a group interview with 10 people. Actually, it was 9 because one didn't show up. And it's crazy and sad at the same time how a lot of people, the majority of people, don't know how to take hiring interviews, don't know how to do hiring interviews. So every interview, we ask a couple of questions like, what is your superpower? What is something that you're really proud of? Why should we hire you? Those 3 questions, we always ask them. And it's crazy what you get. So today, for example, I'll give you a couple of sad examples from today's interview. So what is your superpower? We literally had a person saying that their superpower was that they could do a backflip. What is something that you're proud of? We had a person who is a musician applying for a tech support role who is saying how her superpower, that the thing that she was most proud of was the fact that she played instruments with Grammy Award winners. So nothing to do with the job that she's applying for. Why should we hire you? This is the saddest one of them all. We got people saying, you should hire me because I am fun. You should hire me because I could be my genuine self. You can hire me because I could enjoy it. I would find it fun. Because I want to be part of the team. Here's some even worse ones. So you should hire me because I'm trying to get into the tech industry. So this is going to be like my foot in the door. I'm trying to get into the tech interview. So this is going to be kind of a stepping stone. Literally, I'm not making this up. So essentially, they're admitting that they just want to get a job with us so that they could get into the tech industry. They're like, I feel like this is my way into the tech industry, as if like I'm going to leave you guys pretty soon. This will serve as my stepping stone so that I can move into a much better career. It's like, how do you think that is going to make us want to hire you? If you're saying, I want to get into the tech industry and this is my foot in the door, you're not. So think about it. You're not saying like the value that you can provide. You're not saying, hey, I feel like I can make an impact in your company. I feel like I have the skills to make an impact in your company and your clients' lives. I have the skills that you guys are looking for. You're not saying any of that. You're like, you should hire me because it'll be good for me, because it'll be good for my resume. That's never going to motivate anybody to want to hire you. So anyway, those are the kind of answers. So I've been thinking about this and I'm like, I should just make a video where I put it down very simple. How should you answer the question, why should you hire me? And the answer should be this. You should be looking at the position that you're applying for and what the job requirements for that position is, what that role is going to be in charge of, what that role is going to be doing, and then just say how you can fulfill that, how you can solve those problems for the company. So if we're hiring for a tech support engineer and we're looking for people to answer support tickets and to be very detail-oriented, your answer to why should we hire you should be, you're looking for somebody who's detail-oriented, you're looking for somebody who's tech-savvy so that they can answer your clients' tickets. I have those skill sets. I have 3 years of experience working as a tech support engineer doing these kind of same things. In my previous job, I was super detail oriented, so I was able to catch these mistakes that other people have made and fix them before the client. So this is why you should hire me, because you're looking for these things and I'm able to provide these things. Like, it's just super simple. All you got to put is a little bit of thought into what is the company looking for and your skill sets, and then how you're able to solve those problems for the company. That's it. You don't need to make it fancy. You don't need to anyway, just wanted to put this tip out there for people because I feel like, based on the previous interviews that we've had, a lot of people don't know how to answer that question. And again, it's simple. The same thing if we're asking you, what is your superpower should be tailored to the job that you're applying for, to the role that you're applying for. If you're saying, your superpower is to do a backflip, that doesn't help you at all in the interview. If you're saying the thing that you're the most proud of is you playing instruments with other really good musicians, although that's cool, it's not going to help you get the job. It's not going to help you stand out. And so other people say things like when we ask them, why should we hire you? And they're like, because I am a hard worker. After 10 people just said they're a hard worker, that's not going to make you stand out. And so you got to, anyway, the way to stand out is super simple. Just, again, go back to what is the role that you're applying? What is that company looking for? Why are they hiring for this role? And then just say that you can do that job. And then you can, you just say, hey, based on the job posting, this company is looking for X, Y, and Z. I can do X, Y, and Z, and that's why you should hire me. So simple. Anyway, so that's that. That is how you should answer the why should you hire me question. I know a lot of people don't love it, but it's just a really great opportunity for you to stand out from other candidates. Okay. That's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is something that is one of my weaknesses that I'm learning to overcome here inside our company, which is giving feedback to employees. So right now in our company, support is a big issue. It's something that has been a big bottleneck for us for almost 2 years now. I mean, since we started, support has always been an issue. And I've been thinking about, I've been struggling with delegating support, because the way I think about support and then the way if I bring in somebody to do support, that we might think about things differently. And so I've been struggling to try and get to try and explain myself to an employee, like, hey, here's how I see things. I've had the hardest time trying to think about how to teach our employees how to do support, and just overall how to give feedback around support, or how to give feedback in general around anything. So I know those are a couple of things. So like feedback around support and how to give feedback in general, those are skill sets that I struggle with as as the leader of our company. Something that I personally have a lot of aversion to. I'm naturally somebody who's very I don't like confrontation, and I don't like making people feel bad. And so naturally I'm averse to like saying something that would make the other person feel bad. I don't want to make people feel like they're doing a bad job, or that I don't appreciate their work, or that somehow making them feel like they're messing up or something like that. And so for me, learning to give feedback has been a struggle. And I feel like I came up with this framework right now that has been really helpful for me to think about, which is, if I'm ever wanting to give somebody feedback, one of the things that I don't want to have happen is that person ends up doing things with the feedback that I told them, how I told them to do things, because I don't want them to think like, or I'm afraid that they'll think this way. Okay, I'm going to change my work and do what Hervin is saying, because that's how Hervin wants it done. This is how he prefers. And so I'm just trying to please Hervin. That's not what I want to have happen. Instead, I want them to think for themselves. I want them to think and come up with the same conclusions that I come up with. And how do I do that? How do I get them thinking in alignment with how I think? And that's one of the things that I've been thinking about, is how do you solve that problem of duplicating kind of your train of thought as a leader? So how do you, if you see things a certain way, how do you get your employees to see them the same way, or at least like be aligned in the way you're seeing things? Of course, we're different people and we see things differently, and so you got to take that into account. But how do you at least get all of the team members thinking in a way that is similar or aligned in a way? Even if you come up with different ideas, they're all aligned in a certain way. You kind of all have that North Star that you're all pointing towards. Excuse me. And so one of the things that I thought about is, why don't I just write down the principles that I intuitively think about when I'm making a decision inside the company, when I'm providing support to the client, where I'm building something? How do I, like, why don't I just write down the principles by which I make the decision and explicitly write them? And the questions that I ask myself, the decision, kind of like decision trees, questions that I have, that I do intuitively, so that I can teach that to other employees, and then we can have that as a standard that I can say, hey, here's the principles by which I'm making the decision. And then when I give people feedback, I'm referring to these principles so that we are all getting into alignment. Anyway, that's what I've been thinking about, is how do I provide feedback in a way that is constructive, that the employee feels like, okay, this was useful, I'm helping them be better, and I'm helping them think deeper about their jobs, about their roles. I'm helping them become better decision makers. I'm coaching them to think deeper about their roles, and then also getting everybody into alignment in the way we make decisions, in the way we provide support, for example. So what I came up with is writing down a set of principles by which I am making the decision. And these are things that I intuitively do, but just putting them in paper, making them explicit. And the other thing too is creating flowcharts for decision making. This is a tool that I have been using more and more, flowcharts, and I have found, like, it's so useful if you can use it as a way to make decisions. So, the problem with like writing down like a list is that sometimes, as part of the decision making process, there are questions that can take you into different directions, and so in a flowchart, it's easy to see. Those two tools I've been using or I'm starting to use to help our employees learn how to make decisions, how to come up with the same conclusions that I'm coming up with, because they're thinking based on the same principles. Or even if they come up with different conclusions, just overall being able to talk about the principles by which we're making decisions, and by which, in the case of support, by which we're making support, that is super, super useful as a company, because then we can all align on, this is how we're doing things. And then we can, if there's ever a time where I have an employee giving feedback to another employee, they could also refer back to this set of principles. Overall, so when I made this today, I felt like it was a good practice moving forward. If there's ever a time where I need to give an employee feedback, just writing down the principles by which I'm making the decision, and sharing that with them, and then writing kind of like the decision trees, that's really helpful. So anyway, just overall, that's right there. Just me learning how to give feedback to employees, me learning how to duplicate my decision-making process that I have intuitively from working inside our company for a long time, and then from also kind of things that I naturally do based on my personality. So being able to share that with other people, I think would be helpful. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about here is something that I've spoken about in other videos. I have been thinking a lot about this right now because of the hiring process, which is that life, again, and I said this in the other video, life is one big game of trade-offs, one big game of rock, paper, scissors. By that, what I mean is that, with rock, paper, scissors, there isn't one, rocks doesn't beat everything. Scissors doesn't beat everything. Paper doesn't beat everything. The same thing, with life. I've been thinking about this because of the interviews. There isn't one character, because I think I used to play video games as a kid. There isn't one character that just beats everything, right? And like rock, paper, scissors, there's always, rock can beat scissors, but gets beat by paper. Same thing, like in real life. And let me bring this home and like bring the analogy home. So I used to think as a kid, I can work on myself to the point where I can excel at everything and I can have the best qualities about everything. So I could be somebody who's really creative and who's really detail oriented, and somebody who's a very big, like high level thinker, but somebody who's like very detailed, somebody who's like fast but deep thinker, somebody who's very analytical yet intuitive. And it's like I've realized that it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. There's trade-offs. So what I mean by that is like, we've been interviewing people who are extremely tech savvy, and what I've noticed with the people who are extremely tech savvy, especially the people who have more like programming experience, where they have had to really sit down by themselves and like spend hours by themselves, locked in a room in front of a computer, trying to get better at their craft. They might end up being people who have a lot less social abilities, and so when they're in the interviews, they might not sound, smooth, as if you're talking to a salesperson. When we hire people that have sales experience, they always sound great and they know how to sell themselves, but then they might lack like the technical ability. So it's always like the trade-offs. If you have somebody, if you're looking, so to bring this into more practical terms, what I'm realizing is it's the fact that you can't have everything in one person. So if you are hiring for somebody if you're looking for bringing on a team member, let's say you have a role in which you're requiring that person to be a lot more detail oriented, and then you end up hiring a person who's very detail oriented, and they don't end up being, and then like later on you'll notice that they're not very creative or they don't think outside of the box, something like that. It's because you hire for a certain personality trait. If somebody's like very detail oriented, that comes at the expense of them not thinking very high level, not seeing the big picture, not thinking outside of the box. They might be somebody who's really great at following the step-by-step process in a very detail oriented way. And so, understanding when we're hiring that if we're looking, knowing what we're looking for is extremely important, and knowing the trade-offs that we're willing to make is extremely important. So if we're looking for somebody who needs to be creative and innovative, we can't also expect that person to be very detail-oriented and follow step-by-step process. If you have somebody who's very creative, they're not going to want to follow like checklists and step-by-step process. They're going to get bored. On the other hand, if you're looking for somebody who's very detail-oriented, who's going to follow the checklist, the step-by-step process, and do things in the same way all the time, and you cannot expect that person to then all of a sudden be coming up with like new ideas every time. They're not going to be that kind of person. And so learning to understanding, this is giving me more clarity around the people that we need to hire and the trade-offs that we need to make, and knowing, okay, what kind of person are we looking for specifically? What personality traits are we looking for? And knowing what trade-offs are we willing to make to get that person that we're looking for. So if we're looking for somebody who's very, very tech savvy, knowing that they're not going to be the most people-oriented person. Or if we know we want somebody who's sort of in the middle, who has people skills and tech skills, we know they're not going to be like amazing with people, but we also know they're not going to be like the most techie, hardcore programming. You know what I mean? It all comes at an expense. And just realizing that is allowing me to make better hiring decisions, I feel like, or at least giving me more clarity around how to hire. So anyway, just wanted to come in, drop all of those things, document all of those things. I appreciate you all so much for listening. My name is Hervin. This is the Daily Journal video series. This concludes day number 18. If you are interested in following along the journey, then subscribe to the YouTube channel. Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow.